Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Game of Thrones Season 4 Rewatch Review. In this video, I'll be giving my thoughts on Season 4 of Game of Thrones after recently rewatching it, and I will be paying particular attention to how Season 4 relates to the upcoming season of Game of Thrones. So I have to give a spoiler warning for Game of Thrones up to the end of Season 6. If you haven't seen up to this point, you may not want to watch this video, otherwise some things may be spoiled for you. So this past October, I did full-length reviews for the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, but I stopped short of Season 4. The reason being is I started my channel and my Game of Thrones reviews during Season 4, so I never got to cover the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, so I decided to do videos where I covered every episode of those first 3 seasons since I never got to do it. However, since I have covered Seasons 4 through 6, I decided there was no reason to cover them again. But in those reviews of the first 3 seasons, I also had a section that covered what happened in those seasons that made me think about the upcoming Season 7. So I decided it'd be worth it to do the same things for Seasons 4 through 6 and also give my opinions on the season after rewatching it. But these videos won't be full-length reviews like the first 3 seasons because I have already covered Seasons 4 through 6, so if you want my thoughts on that, you can check them out in my Game of Thrones review playlist on my channel. These videos will be more focused on my more recent thoughts on what I thought of Season 4 after rewatching it and how this season relates to the upcoming Season 7. So let's get into Season 4, which I have historically championed as my favorite season of Game of Thrones because it was the most consistently good, and I think I am standing by that stance after rewatching it, as most seasons tend to have a weak start and are very back-heavy, where the episodes at the end of the season are the best, especially the most 2 recent seasons, Seasons 5 and 6. But Season 4 by far had the strongest start to any season and my favorite season premiere of any season, Two Swords, which was very interesting in getting us caught up on the various storylines, and it featured the single best introduction of a character with Oberyn Martell, whose introductory scenes were simply amazing, but more importantly, it had one of my all-time favorite scenes in the entire show with Arya and the Hound's encounter at the end with the Lannister men. And then the second episode, The Lion and the Rose, was an amazing episode where we get Joffrey's death, among other great things. The season then dips in quality for episodes 3, 4, and 5, which weren't bad episodes by any means, as they all had amazing scenes in them, but they also featured too many slow-paced scenes, which I would describe as filler. But the season then picks up again with one of my favorite episodes, Episode 6, The Laws of Gods and Men, where we get what is, in my opinion, the best acted scene in the entire series with Tyrion's trial. Then Episode 7 was an interesting enough episode, but the season then, like most seasons do, end on a high note with Episode 8, The Mountain and the Viper, which I actually enjoyed a lot more than I remembered on this rewatch, where I think I may have to place this episode higher than I have been in the past. Not just for the Mountain and Viper fight, but the entire episode was amazing, and the fight itself remains a hallmark of the series. In Episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall, was also a lot better than I remembered. I still consider it the lesser of the battle episodes, but considering how fucking amazing the other battle episodes are, that's not really saying anything bad about this episode. This is still a very nicely done episode that impresses me mainly by how well it is crafted. And then the season closes out with one of the best finales and still one of my all-time favorite episodes, The Children, which is just one amazing scene after another as it closes out all of the various storylines in the season in a glorious fashion. So all in all, an amazing season. One thing that did strike me on my rewatch is that this was the season of Tywin Lannister. I think he was a high point of the season, and this was his best season. Watching it did make me really miss him, as he only appeared in one scene in season 1, and although I loved his stuff with Arya in season 2, there weren't very many of them. He did feature a lot more prominently in season 3, but most of his scenes were slow-paced filler. Season 4 is where he really shined as the menacing true ruler of Westeros, and his personal story with Tyrion was just amazing, which of course ended with Tyrion filling him full of arrows while he was on the shitter, and it was just simply great. Makes me miss him though. And watching season 4 does make me sigh with sorrow to see how the show actually got Dorne right, and it doesn't get Dorne right again. As although Oberyn Martell barely appears before his gruesome death, he had a huge impact on the show, and very arguably was the best character who only lasted one season to ever appear on the show. It makes me very sad to think of what happened to Dorne after this season, and kind of awestruck by how they could manage to fuck up something so much that they got so right here. And on my rewatch, there was only one scene that literally brought me to tears. Can you guess which scene it was? It wasn't Ygritte's death, although that was a really touching scene. It wasn't when Arya left the Hound for dead. It wasn't when Tyrion lied to Shae and called her a whore in order to scare her off, even though that was a really sad scene and a really well acted one. Nor was it the scene where Tyrion killed Shae, which was extremely tragic. Nor was it the scene where Mira was forced to slit her own brother's throat. No, the only scene that made me shed tears on this particular rewatch was the scene where Daenerys locked up and chained her dragons. Now, you may think that's a bit silly of me, but this was such a touching scene, mainly the way Emilia Clarke played this, as you could see the pain on her face. You could tell how betrayed the dragons felt. Gosh, I'm tearing up now just thinking about it. But it did make me realize that we haven't really seen Daenerys with all 3 dragons since this scene, other than that one brief scene where they defeated the Masters at Meereen, and then saw them flying together with the fleet on the way to Westeros. Other than that, we haven't really seen her enjoying like her dragons flying around. Sure, we get a few scenes with her and Drogon in seasons 5 and 6, but not all 3. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing them all together again in season 7, and they're so much bigger now. And this season they were just teenagers, basically, bigger than the wee babies that they were in season 2, but now they're just freaking huge. So I can't wait to see that either. Speaking of teenagers who have grown up so much to become very different in season 7, it was also very interesting seeing these Stark girls and how much they have both changed. Arya in this season was mostly a whiny little girl who wasn't really capable of taking care of herself, although we get the beginning of her growth in this season with her learning how to kill, which was deliciously dark, where she is, and at the end of season 6 is one of the world's most deadly assassins, who's able to infiltrate a well-guarded castle and kill its lord, the liege lord of the Riverlands. So a huge, gigantic difference in character. And Sansa was still the whining weakling who let others push her around. But again, we get the beginning of her growth in this season, where she lies in order to save Littlefinger's life, and the way she so easily manipulates the Lords of the Vale was truly impressive. However, her demeanor was still entirely different than it is now, where she is very commanding and intimidating, the way she casually threatened Littlefinger with death, and the way that she promised Ramsay that he would die and then fulfilled that promise by having them ripped apart by his own dogs. She has changed a lot as well. It will be extremely interesting to see these two meet up again after they have both changed so much. Speaking of people meeting up again, I so want to see the Hound run into Arya again, as I wonder what he will make of the deadly assassin that she has become. And for that matter, I wonder if the Hound will run into Brienne again, and how he will treat the woman who nearly killed him. And I doubt that he'll hold a grudge, but that's just my guess. So I did find it a bit of irony watching Loras and Marjorie at Tyrion's trial, as they were both kind of smug, watching Tyrion being unfairly treated where he didn't stand a chance in hell, as shortly they would undergo the same treatment, particularly Loras. And Marjorie even knew that Tyrion was an innocent man, but didn't speak up. But you can't really blame her, as to do so would turn in her own grandmother. So I do have to talk about another character who was introduced this season 1 who has become quite important, the Night King. A lot of people were making a huge fuss over the scene where the White Walkers, particularly book readers, as it was giving us information the books have yet to give us by showing the White Walkers turning Craster's children into other White Walkers, and it is of course the Night King who does this. Now, when the official material referred to this character as the Night King when this episode aired, people got this confused with the historical figure, the Night's King, which is mentioned in the Song of Ice and Fire extended lore, who was a former commander of the Night's Watch who became this big White Walker commander. But George R. R. Martin stated on several occasions that this is not the same character, and this character is not as old. The Night King is just a title that is passed down. However, this gets confusing in Season 6 when we get a scene that shows the Children of the Forest creating the White Walkers by turning a man into a White Walker, and the actor they used to play this man is the same actor who plays the Night King, which leaves many to speculate that this man is in fact the Night King, and we see his origins. And if that is the case, then he is extremely older than the Night's King, as that scene was from like thousands of years ago. I personally would like to think that this isn't the same man. They simply had the same actor portray him out of convenience. But I don't know, maybe I'll be proven wrong. But I do wonder if this scene that depicts the White Walkers turning babies into White Walkers will be relevant later on, or if it will just be interesting White Walker trivia. There's still so much we don't know about the White Walkers, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out once we learn more. And so perhaps this is why people were so excited to get a deeper glimpse into them, even if it doesn't turn out to be particularly relevant. So I also remembered that we get the birth of the Grey Worm and Missandei romance in Season 4, and a couple of scenes that people weren't very wild about, where Grey Worm was watching her bathe, to which later she replied that she was glad he saw her, and this romance between them has been teased ever since then, and we see them kissing in the trailer for Season 7, so many speculate that they will make love next season in some form or another. So watching this season made me realize they've been teasing this romance for 3 goddamn years. So if they do it in Season 7, it will be about goddamn time. I mean, this is really interesting enough to tease for 3 years, but whatever. So it was a bit strange seeing the wildlings at war with the Night's Watch, as I'm more used to seeing them as allies with the later seasons. But in particular, it was strange seeing Tormund and Jon Snow as bitter rivals, as now they are the best of friends. But I totally bought the journey to this point, which I suppose I'll cover more in the later seasons, as with all that would happen between them, they both realized that they are not enemies and that they need to band together or they'll all die. Some viewers, I note, still hold grudges. Some people, for example, still cite with Ali and say that Tormund and Ygritte brutally killed his parents this season, and the way that the wildlings indiscriminately slaughtered defenseless people in the village and at Molestown does paint them as very murderous thugs. But you do have to take the political situation into account, and this was wartime, and their tactics were akin to, say, like shock and awe. But that's not at all to excuse their inexcusable actions, but the bigger picture changes as we see Tormund and the wildlings be the Starks' closest allies. And without them, the cruel and ruthless Boltons would have continued to rule over the north. So the political landscape changes so do alliances. And this is the nature of warfare, and those who have stubbornly hold on to old grudges are foolish and will likely perish, such as the Umbers who let their hatred towards the Wildlings blind them to their loyalty to the Starks. So I find such comments referring to Tormund in Season 7 as the killer of Ollie's parents foolish. I mean, really, other characters have forgiven past feuds in order to accomplish their common immediate goals, which is the wise thing to do. Which is why Daenerys was being really stupid this season by exiling Jorah, which began her downfall in the next season as she either lost or pushed away her best advisors. And although Jorah had betrayed her, it was beyond obvious that he was completely devoted to her now, and for her to simply dismiss this and exile him was a colossal mistake, and I dare say her time in Meereen wouldn't have been as turbulent had she had not done this, and if she was wise enough to forgive past misdeeds, which I hope she will be more wise in this upcoming season. So overall on this rewatch, I was more impressed by the end of the season than I remember being, but the start of the season was much better than pretty much any other season, and thus the season is creating a unique experience with consistently good quality and tense drama and heart-pounding suspense. And although later seasons would have moments and episodes that stood out more than anything we see in season 4, those seasons are also filled with more ups and downs, which are more turbulent than what is seen here. So I'm really hoping that season 7 will manage to recapture this consistency in quality and absence of filler, and hopefully it can even surpass it in terms of pacing and consistency. So here's hoping. So that's it for my review, rewatch review of Season 4 of Game of Thrones. I'll be back in the coming weeks to cover rewatch reviews of Season 5 and 6, and this is all leading up to the premiere of Season 7, which I will cover extensively, so make sure to join me for that. And also be sure to check out my channel for many other videos on other shows like Star Trek, Dark Matter, Orphan Black, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.